Hello, I'm Fazil Khan from Aero A. So today I'm here to discuss for relational database management system. In this, I'm going to discuss on data types of present textual data. So data types in DBMS, database management systems. When you create a table or add a field to a table in the geodatabase field are created as a specific data type. So when you create a table or add when you adding a field to a table in the geodatabase database, then fields are created as a specific data type. So data types are classifications that identify possible values for and operations that can be done on the data, as well as the way the data in that field is sorted in the database. So when you import data of one type into a field of another data type, you need to understand what the equivalent data types are between uh, Argis and your database management system, because it can impact data content. So when you are importing data of one type into a field of another type, so you need to understand what the equivalent data types are between Argis and your database, cause it can affect the data content. Also, when creating new data sets in ArcGIS, it is helpful to know the equivalent data types between ArcGIS and your DBMS. For example, if you add a floating point float column to an existing feature class, that equates to a numeric data type column in a sequential server database. File geodatabase data types are the same as ArcGIS data types for database management systems products. Though data types can differ, the following sections contain information on how a database management system data types map to ArcGIS data types. Access data type. When you create a future class or table in ArcGIS, there are 11 different data types available for each column. These types are mapped to access data types in the following table. So when you go to create a future class when you go to create a future class or table in ArcGIS, so there will be 11 different data types available for each column. These types are mapped to access data types in the following table. Here you can see the examples of ArcGIS data type and what's the access data type there and what is the nodes. So object object ID, these are long integer access data type, and object ID is an auto number field. So short integer is an uh, integer access data type, and long integer is an long integer access data type, and the float is single access data type, and double is double access data type, and text is a text access data type, and date is a date or time access data type. blob is only object access data type, and guid is number access data type, which is replication id and duplicates allowed, and geometry is also only object access data type, and raster is long and integer access data type. So these are the ArcGIS data type and the access data type and their nodes. So object linking and embedding, OLE. Objects are objects created in other applications that are linked or embedded in assets. In this case, binary large object, blob, and geometry data types don't exist in assets. So the objects in Argis and linked to the assets database. So objects are objects which are created in other applications that are linked or embedded in assets. In this case, the blob and geometry data types don't exist in assets. So the object is in Argis and linked to the assets database. Data types data types you'll learn about data types very early into learning a rdbms. One thing to note is that uh, SQLite and PostgreSQL have slightly different data types. For example, if you want to store text in SQLite data types, you'll use the text data type. If you are working with PostgreSQL, you have many more options. You could use variable character, that is varchar n, character n, or text. Each type has its own subtle differences. This is a good example of PostgreSQL being slightly more robust than SQLite, but the core concepts remaining the same. So there are two types of data types there, that is SQLite and PostgreSQL. If you want to store text in SQLite data type, you'll use the text data type. But if you are working with PostgreSQL, you have many more options than SQL. Here you can use variable character, that is varchar and character or text. Each type has its own subtle differences, and this is a good example of PostgreSQL being slightly more robust than SQLite, but the core concepts remaining the same. Built-in tables. As you work you as you work your way through more complicated lessons on databases, you will start to learn how to access built-in tables. For example, if you take our lessons on indexes, you learn how to look at the table that the system automatically creates to keep track of what indexes exist, depending on which rdbms system you are using. In that lesson, we are using PostgreSQL. The syntax for doing that will be different. Anytime you are writing SQL about the database itself rather than the data, that syntax will likely be unique to the rdbms you are using. So we will come to the conclusion part. So relational database store data in tables. Tables can grow large and have a multitude of columns and records. Relational database management systems use SQL and variants of SQL to manage the data in these large tables. The rdbms you you use is your choice and depends on the complexity of your application. Thank you.